This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Squarespace. Everything you need to create an exceptional website. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to squarespace.com/MacVoices and use the discount code MacVoices4. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we're probably, as I record this, I'm still releasing interviews and things shot at NAB in Las Vegas. But before it gets any farther away in our minds, I wanted to do a little bit of a wrap-up show with someone else who attended but saw the show from a much different point of view. So I'd like to introduce you to Rodney Mitchell. He is the leader of the, DMVCPUG. Did I get it right, Rodney?
You got it right.
All right. So, Rodney Mitchell, folks. Now, Rodney, what does that alphabet soup mean?
Basically, DMV stands for the District of Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia Creative Pro User Group.
Great. So, the viewers and listeners are going to be familiar with Dan Berube and Mike Horton of Boston and L.A. Creative Pro User Groups, respectively. You're the guy that runs the D.C. area.
That's correct.
You guys stay kind of busy down there, I think, don't you?
We stay pretty busy. My colleague and cohort, George Kennedy, he runs Magic Film Works, and together we try to stay on top of the technology shifts in the industry. We also are working production folks. He works in the AV industry, and I work in film production and post-production activities in the region. And we try to leverage the technology as best we can to get through with the tasks at hand and try to make a little bit of money, so.
Yeah, little detail. So you all are professionals at this. You work, in the bigger industries. And this was not your first trip to NAB, I gather.
No, it's been about my fifth trip. I started out supporting Larry Jordan, as you know. Larry runs the Digital Production Buzz, and I started out helping out with the audio editing at the show. And each year I got better and better at it, and he gave me more and more tasks, of course. So it's been my fifth year running the audio work at the show. And this year we tried a little something different. We did video production as well. And we had a man running around doing interviews with video cameras, and he was sort of a comedian, but it was very, very fun and kind of fresh for the NAB show. So that's what we've been doing this year.
That's good. So you actually were working the show.
Yep, working the show. And George and I, we took one day where we did interviews for the DMVCPUG. So those videos should be hitting the internet soon to kind of have some content for the user group.
That's great. Mm-hmm. This was my first time. It's a show I've wanted to get to for a long time.
Right.
I don't work in the industry, as you can tell. I play in the industry a little bit. So for me, it was quite different, and I was most surprised, given that it is the National Association of Broadcasters show, how much focus there was, at least this time around, on what I will call the independent creators, people that, like me, who are doing something on the web, or people that are doing indie filmmaking or indie video of one kind or another. I really sort of expected it to be geared a lot more toward big broadcast. And while there was plenty of that there was an awful lot of other stuff that I could use or could see myself using. Is that a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment. I think the emphasis has changed more to the creators of the content, and there's a whole distribution workflow, from the pre-production. Pre-production, production, and post-production. That whole ecosystem has to be looked at, because it takes the entire work chain to produce content, right? And content is king. So. To be able to understand the changing technology and be able to best leverage that to get your message out, I think that's what NAB is all about today.
It has to be exciting for someone in your position, because it certainly is for someone in mine, to see the what is trickling down to everyone that, you know, at one point was only going to be available to someone doing network production. And now it's within my grasp. A lot of things are within my grasp, and you get the impression that next year there will be even more things within my grasp.
I love the trickle-down effect because, you know, the more people that can shoot video, the more they can get their story told. The internet is pretty much a leveling ground for people to be able to get their message out. I mean, more and more social media is driving, you know, the instantaneous news about things that happen in the world. You see how fast news travels. People love to see video and audio, you know, to tell the story. So the more people we have, the more opportunities we have to capture that news, right, or that event. I mean, you just think about, you know, the tragedies that are going on around us, you know, the event that happened in Texas, you know, yesterday. Folks were driving along the road, you know, popping out their cell phone, caught the video and the fire, and then the explosion happened, and, you know, at the right place at the right time, in a sense, to get the video shot. But I mean, that's a dangerous situation to be in. But to be able to get that news out and share that with the world, I mean, that's what technology is doing, right? It's getting that capability down to the lowest level, and that's kind of exciting.
How is it affecting what you do? Is it facilitating it, or is it creating more competition than you've ever seen before?
It is creating competition, but it also is liberating to some degree from the cables that you would have to normally run to get video feeds from cameras to places where the director and producers sit to watch what's happening with the framing and the shooting of the video. Now you have technology out there that you can run wirelessly to iPads or iPhones. So people can do their monitoring for whether it's for makeup folks or for people making a critical decision about the shot for the day. That's kind of cool that you don't have to run around with wires when you want to switch video feeds. And it makes production easier. It should help it make it cheaper because you spend less time doing that labor work and you spend more time on the creative side. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I think that you have more tools than ever at your disposal and can up your game with, I mean, there's obviously learning curves and expenses involved, but with comparative ease, you can do things that you couldn't do before. And that, is it fair to say that changes every year as we progress?
I think so. It's been a pretty rampant pace of change, and it takes pretty much the entire year to try to absorb and use what you learn. And that's kind of the hard part, right? It's like you only have so much time in the day to learn things and then put them to use. And it's pretty tiring chasing after technology. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of us know that, and yet it's compelling. I came away, as I do from these kind of shows, somewhat recharged because I look at the tools that I can now access. I look at things, and it's just a matter of me putting in the time and learning how to use them to do what I do, and I'm sure it's the same for you and everyone in your group.
Yeah, I just love the ability to collaborate with people that are beyond my normal borders. You know, it's great collaborating with folks in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia, but with the accesses we have with the internet and the collaboration tools that come from things in like Adobe Anywhere, you can now collaborate with partners all over the world. You know, you can pass bits of projects along to the next guy who's following the sun and have everybody working on a part of it so that it's a constant workflow going on. So that's kind of cool because, I mean, labor is cheaper in different parts of the world, and you can leverage that labor force, you know, wherever you sit.
Yeah, that's something I did notice on the show floor, that there was a lot of discussion of collaboration, virtual, online collaboration. I talked to some folks, I believe, if I remember correctly, they were from New Zealand or Australia, who talked about putting your titling in the cloud and your production notes in the cloud. And forgive me, it's it's later than it should be here, but you can look in the feed because I did an interview with them. That's really intriguing. In fact, I think one of the questions I asked was, why would I want to put this stuff in the cloud? Once they explained it, it made perfect sense, and I was a little embarrassed I'd asked the question.
Yeah, I mean, the cloud, for what it's worth, I mean, it's a growing presence, and once we get over the initial fears of securing your content, making sure that no one else can see that information, I think it will get more and more use. I mean, a lot of folks are skeptical of the cloud because it's not in their facility. They can't have physical control over it. But, you know, again, as things get better and assurances come along that make you feel comfortable using it, I think more and more people will become users of it. So
you have to ask this question at any show like this. What did you see that was cool, interesting, caught your eye at any level of production?
I'm pretty excited about the Blackmagic products, and especially, you know, last year's 2.5K camera and then this year's 4K camera and the Pocket Cinema camera. Again, that technology trickle down, you know, for folks to be able to shoot 4K for $4,000, I mean, that was never heard of, right, until, you know, a couple of weeks ago. So, and then the ability to have cinema-like quality in your pocket, right, where you can get close-in shots with very little gear. I think that's pretty clever of them to create something like that and to get that in the hands of professionals. I think a lot of $1,000 cameras will get sold here come July.
Yeah, I looked at that myself. It's way above what anything well, every time I say that's way beyond anything I need, within 6 months it's usually in my hand and I'm actually using it. So I better be careful. You brought up that this shoots 4K, and that's something else I wanted to ask for your opinion on. I attended several of the panel discussions just on where things are going. What kind of patterns do you see from where you sit in the consumption of video?
I see. I mean, it's great that they have 4K, but I don't think a lot of folks are consuming 4K. So I think the 1080p still is a sweet spot for most workflows, and they try to target that as the distribution output. But to have that capability so that as the technology moves in the marketplace and you see more 4K televisions being put out there and people can actually afford to use them, and we have then 4K content to be able to display, then they'll get used more. But people have an investment in hardware, and they want that hardware to be able to last a certain amount of time. So the more capabilities you have up front when you buy, the better chance you will be still using that camera, you know, a couple of years from now, given how fast things change in the industry.
Do you want a web presence? Of course you do. You have something to say for your business, your civic organization, or maybe just for yourself. No matter what you want to say, the easiest way to get your message on the web is with Squarespace. Just sign up, pick a template, and your website will be live in minutes. Then take a little time to customize your site with things like social network links, photo galleries, and the brand new calendar page to make your site suit your needs. What's great about Squarespace is that anyone can create a professional-looking website without having to know any code or anything about building a website. All you need to know is what you want your website to look like, and Squarespace will let you make it happen. Don't take my word for it, though. Give it a try for 14 days free. Build the website you want, and then, when it's time to buy, take 10% off your first purchase by going to squarespace.com/MacVoices and using the offer code MacVoices4. Squarespace, everything you need to create an exceptional website. How about the actual end consumer? Are they moving away from television and cable delivery to internet delivery, to moving away from the big screen as much as we love it? And it's interesting that one minute we're talking about 4K, the next minute we're talking about watching video on my iPad or my iPhone.
I think the shifts I see in my own family, right? I don't watch a lot of television. I'm on my computer a lot, and I use content that I can find from different channels that are out there on the internet. I find a lot of folks use DVR a lot, right? So they're recording the content and leveraging that playback when it's convenient for them. So I see the patterns are shifting where we're not like stuck to the programming timelines of the networks. We record things and watch it at our convenience. So I think going forward, I think as internet speeds get faster and faster, you'll see more of the higher speed quality codecs taking effect, and we'll see better quality video, better quality audio. And you'll see people, they're very mobile, right? So people work wherever they can, in restaurants, McDonald's, or on the train to work, or wherever it might be, or that you need connectivity. It's pretty much ubiquitous now. Wireless is 3G, 4G's out there. You pretty much get a signal, you can get work done. So I think that's going to be here to stay, and it's good because it keeps you working and keeps you productive. But on the other hand, you never really get a rest either. So,
yeah, I can identify with that. It really intrigues me just to listen to some of the panels that were at NAB about this. The broadcast industry feels that this is a problem. They're trying to figure out ways not to let their audience slip away. One minute I think they're in denial. The next minute it sounds like they're admitting it and looking at trying to figure out ways to leverage the internet channels and the smaller screens that are with us everywhere.
Right.
Do you see a trend in one direction or the other, or are they a bit schizophrenic when it comes to that particular issue?
I think they're a little schizophrenic, but I attended a streaming media session with Future Media Concepts. They sponsored one of the talks, and what was interesting was how folks were determining what they were going to encode to have the widest reach for the mobile environment. And you can kind of see where we are technology-wise, what's the best set of codecs to encode to have the greatest reach, right? You want to do work once and have enough of the content so that it's reusable based on where it's targeted for. If it's targeted for an iPhone, an iPad, cellular phone, or whatever it might be, trying to understand how your consumer is using your media, I think that's a key factor. And then being able to give them what they want, that will drive the demand, and I think get you loyal subscribers. So
that's a good point, and that's something that folks that haven't produced media don't always understand. That some of these shows that I do, and I'm a pretty simple operation, can end up being in the multi-gig, tens of gigs range. I've got to find a way to compress it down so it can be distributed over the web easily, or I'm not going to have an audience. And that means compromises on quality and compromises on a lot of things. So that's just one area. And it seems that the codecs get better with every generation.
Right.
But they better speed up because the audience is making demands that we can't meet right now.
That is correct. I agree with that.
Anything else from NAB that this year, especially in comparison to other years? Again, I don't have a comparison, so I had a great time. I thought it was fascinating. The sessions were great. I got some time at post-production world and learned a huge amount. Probably stuff that you've known for a long time, but it was new to me.
I'm always learning something new, Chuck. It's always something new out there. Well, what interests me this year, FreeFly's movie technology, the Steadicam technology that you've seen, that's pretty amazing. Price is a little high, around $15K, but to have that kind of capability in that platform is pretty amazing. DJ2's Phantom, which has the GPS for the GoPro, so now you can gyro stabilize your GoPro. That's coming out. They already have a Phantom out with GPS, but now the additional gyro stabilized piece is coming, and they demonstrated that at the show. So I know some folks that are in the CPUG out in LA, and other folks around the world are using that particular platform because it's about $700, and to have that kind of capability and be able to get those kind of shots for $700, it's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, we talked to them, and by the time folks see this, they should have seen that interview too. And it did draw me in because, wow, for $700, I think my example was that for less than a fully loaded iPad, I can have a camera in a drone flying around getting aerial shots.
It would be kind of interesting for different markets because if you needed to inspect your roof and you don't want to get up on your roof, just fly your Phantom up there and take some video, and you can inspect and see if you need some work done or something. I mean, lots of applications. Once we get FAA, to approve the actual flying of those devices, so people don't get in trouble for doing so, I think that would be great. I work with some folks in my area that are actual remote flyers of those kind of vehicles, and they do some pretty interesting looks with those aircraft parts, and it's pretty amazing. Again, the amount of tools that are coming out in the industry and the way the capabilities are being pushed down to the lowest level. A lot of folks can do a lot of creative things with a lot of tools. I mean, it's just there's so many ways to slice the problem these days. So.
I'm glad you brought up the Phantom. This one thing that from everyone I talked to that said they were hot, and they seem to be everywhere, were the aerial platforms, whether you call them drones or unmanned aerial vehicles or whatever the right acronym is, but basically a way to fly a camera, a flying platform of some kind. Is this just a new toy and a new trend that the price points have become right, or do you think this represents a real trend in video?
I think once they work out the politics of flying the unit, I think there's always been a certain niche of folks that leverage those kind of flying vehicles, or remotely piloted vehicles, as my folks like to call them. They don't like calling them drones because they're not really UAVs like the military drones and whatnot. But I think that technology has a place. And it does alleviate some other costs that you may incur using a jib and those kind of technologies to get shots. And you're kind of limited in what you can do with jibs. But with a flying device like that, you can get some pretty incredible shots for a pretty cheap amount of money. So,
yeah. So what are you going to be showing from NAB at your user group in the next couple months, other than the interviews you mentioned earlier?
Well, we are also an Adobe user group, and so we'll have Adobe out, and they'll showcase where they are with their Creative Cloud and Adobe Anywhere technology. Blackmagic is also a sponsor of us, and so I hope to have them bring the 4K and cinema pocket camera out. We have some other relationships with Red Giant and Focus Press for books. So we have a large selection of sponsors that help us get through our monthly meetings, and they support us well. And so we like to showcase them and what they have at our user group meetings. And we're always looking for new, interesting discussions and speakers. So we're always seeking the next, talent to bring to the area. So where
do we send folks to learn more about your schedule, who all supporting you, and what you're going to be meeting on?
Basically, come to DMVCPUG.com and look at our events page. It'll show you all the events that we have coming, and you can always hit the contact page for reaching us, and we can answer any question from there. Great. And how about you personally? Where do we send folks to learn more about you and see what you're up to? Well, you pretty much use the same resources. There's a reel page, and I tend to put up pictures and things like that and videos from activities that we do, whether it's a feature film I've worked on or some exotic car race or something that I've supported. I'm trying to get into a lot of things and keep it exciting. George is also doing a lot of great things with his new Blackmagic camera, so he's always shooting new events, and we're trying to showcase basically what our folks in this region can do, and try to bring work in this, in this area. So trying to not let Dan and Mike steal all the thunder out there. So trying to bring a little bit back east.
Well, that's good. Yes, north and west, we can cover the Mid-Atlantic part. That's good.
There you go.
Rodney, I really appreciate the time. It's great to see you, and thanks so much for helping us wrap up NAB.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Folks, that's Rodney Mitchell. Again, the DMV. Yeah. I'm sorry, Rodney. I'm trying to do it. DC, Maryland, Virginia Creative Pro User Group. I got it. It's just a lot of letters in there. Check it out if you're in the area or traveling to the area, because just like all the Creative Pro User Groups, there's some exciting things happening. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices, and we will be back. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, app.net, Google+, Facebook, and for more Apple, Mac, and tech-related shows, including MacVoices, Mac Notables, the Mac Jury, and the MacVoices Briefing. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com.